Jackson Grant walked into Station Echo 9 with slow, tired steps. The metal floor echoed under his boots. It was his first time here, an alien-run trading post floating just outside Earth's orbit. He was a war veteran, now retired. No longer a soldier, just a man looking for peace... And maybe a strong cup of coffee. He stepped into the Blue Nova Cafe, the only place on the station where humans were even allowed to sit. The lights inside were soft purple. Tables floated a few inches above the floor, and every customer was from a different world. Tall lizards, creatures with fur, some glowing-eyed aliens. Jackson stood out, but he didn't care. He had seen stranger things in war. A young alien waitress walked over to him. She was tall, with pale silver skin and glowing blue eyes. Her long hair floated behind her like it was underwater. Her name tag read, Gianna. "Welcome," she said, her voice soft but unsure. "You are human?" Jackson gave a small smile. "The last time I checked, yeah." Gianna stared at him like she was scanning him without a device. Then, suddenly, her eyes widened. She froze, lips slightly open. Her hands started to shake. "Wait," she whispered. "You're ready again?" Before Jackson could ask what she meant, Gianna dropped her tray. A mug shattered on the floor. Alien heads turned. Everyone in the cafe stopped talking. Silence. Jackson stood still. What did you say?" Gianna blinked fast. She stepped back, eyes still on him. I need a moment." She rushed into the back kitchen, leaving him standing alone. From a table nearby, a short, insect-looking alien muttered. He activated her. Another whispered, "He doesn't even know what he is." Jackson frowned. What the hell is going on? Behind the kitchen wall, Gianna leaned against a counter, breathing fast. Her heart was pounding, if her species even had one. She accessed the cafe's medical scanner and pulled up the last energy signature from her tray. It had scanned Jackson the moment she touched it. DNA signature detected. Species match. Forbidden's tier. Human variant Zeta. It made no sense. This was supposed to be a legend. A myth. Her people spoke of a human strain from ancient war files. Soldiers enhanced. Beyond natural limits. They called them repeaters, men who could recover faster than any known species and remain fertile, combat-ready, and energized. Again and again and again. Her grandmother once said, "If a repeater ever walks among us again, empires will rise or fall overnight." But they were extinct, gone, or so they thought. Back in the cafe, Jackson sat down at a corner table. Everyone was still staring, whispering. He felt like a freak show. All he wanted was breakfast. Gianna finally came back, holding a mug with both hands. "Here," she said, "your drink, Earth-style coffee. Extra strong." "Thanks," Jackson replied. "Mind telling me what that whole scene was about?" She looked around, then leaned closer. Your body. It's doing something it shouldn't." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "You sound like my doctor back home." "No," she said. "Your DNA is, how do I explain this? You're already recharged. Your energy levels are cycling faster than normal. Like your body is ... prepared." "Prepared for what?" She swallowed. "For everything. Battle, mating, regeneration. You're ready. Again." He laughed. "Lady, I just got off a transport ship after 2 days. I'm not ready for anything." Gianna didn't smile. "I'm serious, and if others find out, they might not let you leave." In the shadows behind the cafe's booth, a creature with red cybernetic eyes tapped a comms device. Target confirmed. Human variant Zeta. Inform the syndicate. He must not leave Echo 9. Back at the table, Jackson sipped his coffee. "So what do I do now?" Gianna looked at the exit, then at him. "You act normal. You finish your coffee. And then you walk out like you don't know anything." Jackson leaned back in his chair. "You're not making this feel normal." I know, she said. But if you don't get out of here soon, you might not get another chance. Just then, two armored figures walked into the cafe. Enforcer drones. Their helmets scanned the crowd. Jackson's instincts kicked in. He looked at Gianna. She whispered, "Do you trust me?" He paused. "No, but I don't have much choice, do I?" She smiled just a little. "Good, then follow me. And don't look back." Jackson followed Gianna through a narrow back hallway of the Blue Nova Cafe. She moved fast, glancing over her shoulder every few steps. The lights above flickered. The sound of enforcer boots echoed behind them. "Where are we going?" Jackson asked quietly. "To the service tunnels," Gianna replied. "They're not scanned by security, at least not yet." They stopped near a sealed panel. Gianna placed her palm on a glowing pad. It scanned her hand and hissed open. Behind it, darkness in there. Jackson asked. Gianna nodded. "Do you want to live?" He sighed. "Fair enough." They stepped inside, and the panel sealed shut. A few minutes later, Gianna guided him into a hidden chamber. The walls were smooth and black, humming with soft energy. It didn't feel like a storage room. It felt ancient. Jackson sat down on a stone bench. "Okay, no more running. Start talking." Gianna took a deep breath. "I wasn't sure at first, but I scanned your energy twice, and then I checked the archives." "What archives?" She turned to a console and pulled up a projection. A spinning double helix of DNA glowed in the air. "This is you," she said. "Or rather, what your body is doing." Jackson frowned. "Looks like spaghetti." She ignored that. "Your cells are regenerating, rapidly, too rapidly. And the energy levels are impossible for a human. But they match something we only have in classified records." She pulled up another file, grainy, military-style footage. A human man, huge and fast, was fighting off an alien squad alone. Laser shots bounced off his skin. He didn't tire. He didn't stop. That was from 214 years ago, Gianna said. "We call them repeaters." Jackson watched in silence. Gianna continued. "Repeaters were genetically altered humans. Bio-enhanced warriors, thought to be extinct after the Terran collapse. But here you are, not a soldier, not a machine, just ready." Jackson looked at his hands. "I was just a scout. Infantry, nothing special." Gianna shook her head. "You're not just human anymore. Something in your blood is active again. Maybe it was always there. Maybe something on this station triggered it." Outside, enforcers questioned cafe staff. One of them held up a small device showing Jackson's heat signature from moments earlier. He was here. And the girl helped him. "Track the tunnels," the other one said. "No one leaves the station until we have the repeater." Back in the hidden room, Jackson stood up. "Why do they care about me? I'm not some chosen hero." Gianna turned to him slowly. "You're more than a hero. You're a resource. Your DNA could restart entire breeding lines. Heal the sick. Power weapons, or worse." Jackson's jaw tightened. "You mean they'd try to use me?" Gianna nodded. "Or break you apart to study how you work. Either way, you're not leaving this station alive unless we do something." A loud buzz echoed through the walls. Gianna's console flickered. "There. Scanning the tunnels," she said. "We have minutes." Jackson stepped forward. "You seem to know a lot. Why help me?" She hesitated, then said, "Because my people used to believe the repeaters were monsters. But I don't think you're one. And maybe ... maybe I'm tired of watching people be used." Suddenly, the lights dimmed. A voice echoed in the room. "Gianna. Of the Hilari. Surrender the human. This is your only warning." She looked at Jackson. "They know we're here." Jackson cracked his neck. "Well, I guess it's time to see what I can really do." Gianna handed him a compact device. "Try this, it's a kinetic shield." He pressed it against his wrist. A shimmering field activated, wrapping around his arm. "Neat," he said. "Let's hope it works." They stepped out into the tunnel as drones flew overhead. A loudspeaker. Repeated. Repeaters are restricted by galactic law. Compliance is mandatory. Jackson turned to Gianna. "Okay, what's the plan?" She gave a small smile. "We go underground. Really deep. I know a place." "But it's dangerous," Jackson grinned. "Good. I'm starting to feel dangerous too." And with that, they ran into the shadows, one man, now awakened, and one alien waitress who had just betrayed everything she knew. The corridors under Station Echo 9 weren't built for humans. Pipes hissed, lights blinked. The air smelled like rust and machine oil. Jackson and Gianna moved quickly, ducking under hanging wires and stepping over metal grates. Gianna stopped near an old access hatch. "This way," she said. "We're going to the lower maintenance level. No security scans there." Jackson looked at the hatch. "Smells like a sewer," she smirked. "It is," with a groan. The hatch opened. Warm, wet air rushed out. Jackson sighed. Perfect. They climbed down into the dark. 10 minutes later, they reached a narrow hallway lined with broken lights. Gianna opened a hidden panel and entered a strange passcode. A circular door slid open, revealing something unexpected. A diner. Old. Rusty and clearly abandoned, but still standing. It looked just like a classic Earth diner, with red booths, a long counter, and a flickering neon sign. Lunar Grill. Jackson stared. Why is there a 1950s diner under a space station? Gianna stepped inside. This was the original Blue Nova Cafe. Before humans were banned from open trade zones, they used to run places like this. Real food, real people, real stories. Jackson walked over to a booth and sat. "Feels like home." Gianna nodded. "That's why I brought you here. This place was forgotten, but it remembers things." She tapped a metal jukebox in the corner. It came to life with a soft hum. Suddenly, a 200-year-old Earth song played, something old, jazzy, human. Jackson looked around. "So what's the secret?" Gianna walked behind the counter and pulled out a small hidden drawer. Inside was a data cube. She placed it on the table. A hologram projected into the air files, medical scans, military reports. "What's this?" Jackson asked. "Evidence," she said. This diner was a meeting point for repeaters during the end of the Terran War. They used this place to rest, recover, and pass on their knowledge. Jackson leaned closer. One report listed a name. "It Marcus Grant." His eyes narrowed. "That's my grandfather." Gianna blinked. "Then it's true. Your bloodline, your legacy, connects directly to the original repeater project." Jackson sat back, stunned. "He never told anyone, not even my dad." She looked serious. "Maybe he was hiding it, or protecting you." Suddenly, the jukebox shorted out. The lights dimmed. Then a deep voice echoed through the room. Well, the diner still works. You always did like digging up ghosts, Gianna." They turned toward the entrance. A tall alien figure stepped into the diner, his armor gleaming under the broken lights. He had 4 arms, red glowing eyes, and a black syndicate crest on his chest. Gianna whispered, "Korak." Jackson stood. "Friend of yours?" "Not even close," she replied. Korak walked closer, hands behind his back. "You've caused quite the stir, Waitress. Helping a repeater escape? That's a death sentence in most systems." Jackson stepped forward. "You're not touching her." Korak smiled. "Ah, the human speaks. Good. I wanted to see what made your kind so special. Maybe now I'll see it up close." He snapped his fingers. 2 floating drones entered the diner. Armed and blinking, Gina quickly grabbed Jackson's hand and pulled him behind the counter. "Back door go!" she shouted. Kor Rack raised his hand. "Let them run." It's always more fun when they think they have a chance. Behind the diner, an old tunnel curved downward into the lower reactor core levels. Jackson and Gianna ran through it, breath quick, feet-pounding metal. Jackson growled, "I don't even know who I am anymore." Gianna said, "You're still human, just upgraded," he laughed. "That doesn't help." They stopped near a security gate. Gianna pressed a button on her wrist. A beam scanned Jackson's chest. "What now?" he asked. She looked at the scan and smiled slightly. "Your body just absorbed the energy from the jukebox. That wasn't music. It was a data code. A repeater activation pulse." Jackson blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means..." She paused. "You're not just ready again. You're awake now." Behind them, the tunnel lit up with red warning lights. Korak's voice echoed through the system. "Run all you like, human. But even the old heroes fell. You're just a spark. And I am the storm." Jackson looked at Gianna. "Then let's give him something to burn." Jackson didn't remember blacking out. 1 second, he and Gianna were running through the reactor tunnels. The next, cold metal beneath him, buzzing. A sharp pain in the side of his neck. He opened his eyes slowly. The light was harsh, white, clinical. He was no longer in the tunnel. He was strapped to a tilted exam table inside a cold, sterile room. His wrists were locked in magnetic cuffs. Tubes were hooked into his arms. A machine above him beeped slowly. Symbols he couldn't read flashed across a floating screen. Gianna was nowhere in sight. "Gianna!" he shouted. No answer. Instead, a door hissed open. And Korak entered. The syndicate hunter moved like a shadow, calm, precise, like he had done this 1,000 times. "Well," Korak said, his voice like grinding stone, "the mighty repeater finally wakes up." Jackson's jaw tightened. "You drugged me." "Of course," Korak said. "You were becoming problematic." He stepped closer, studying the screen above Jackson's head. "Your body is fascinating," he said. "Self-healing. Tissue. Accelerated cell regeneration. Hormonal surges I've never seen. And the energy signature?" Korak chuckled. "It's like your soul is on fire." Jackson pulled against the cuffs. "Let me out. Now." Korak leaned in, his red eyes glowing. "Why, so you can run again?" "No, you are valuable. And the syndicate needs what's inside you." He tapped the console. "Once I finish extracting your data, we'll clone your genome. 1,000 soldiers like you. Obedient. Controlled." Jackson smiled coldly. "Good luck with that. My body doesn't follow orders, not even mine sometimes." Meanwhile, deep in a hidden server chamber, Gianna was alive but wounded. She'd been thrown from the energy blast when Jackson was captured. Her arm was bleeding blue, and her leg was limping, but she had one thing the syndicate didn't know: access to the station's forgotten systems. She hacked into the mainframe, bypassing lockdowns. Screens flashed as she found Jackson's location. Biochamber 9, genetic. Extraction in progress, her breath caught. "They're trying to harvest him," she whispered to herself. "No, not him." She pressed her palm to a hidden console. It blinked red. "Unauthorized repeater protocol." Active. A soft voice said, "Command accepted. Initiating sleeper core activation." Back in the lab, Jackson's heart rate spiked. The machine above him beeped faster. Energy readings jumped into red zones. Korak frowned. "What's happening?" Jackson groaned. His body felt like it was on fire, not pain power. Something was awakening inside him. Something deep in his DNA. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open, glowing, faintly gold. He grinned. "You're not extracting anything from me." With a loud crack, the restraints shattered. Sparks flew. The table snapped free from the floor. Korak backed up. "No, stay down." Too late. Jackson lunged forward. His punch wasn't just strong, it bent the air around it. Korek flew across the room, crashing into a wall. Jackson ripped off the tubes, breathing hard. His body was glowing from within. Not just strength, something more. A memory echoed in his mind, his grandfather's voice. If you ever feel your blood burning, don't run from it. That means it's time to fight. Outside the lab, alarms blared. Subject breach. Repeater active. Alert security tiers 1 through 6. Korek staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his mouth. You don't even know what you are. Jackson walked toward him, energy flickering around his fists. I know enough. Suddenly, blast doors sealed shut between them. Gas hissed from the vents. A knockout mist filled the lab. Jackson stumbled, coughing. Korek grinned, pressing a remote. Let's see how long your legendary blood holds up. But before the gas could knock him out, an explosion rocked the outer wall. The lab shook. And through the smoke, a shape stepped in. ZHEE single quotes. Nah. Holding a syndicate blaster and limping, but alive. She fired a bolt straight into the ceiling, disabling the vents. Then she shouted, "Move!" Jackson didn't hesitate. He grabbed her hand, and they ran through the hole she'd blown open. They stumbled into an old shaft that led down into the forgotten core of the station. Behind them, syndicate guards were in pursuit. Jackson stopped for a second. His skin was steaming, his muscles pulsing. Gianna looked at him. You're not just waking up, she said. You're becoming what they feared. He nodded. Then maybe it's time they remembered why they were afraid. Jackson's boots pounded across the rusted floor as alarms screamed above. Gianna ran beside him, limping but determined, clutching her side where blue blood dripped. Behind them, the syndicate enforcers were gaining. You know where we're going? Jackson shouted. To Dock C9, she gasped. There's a ship. Not fast, but it can jump. What kind of jump? She glanced at him. A wormhole jump. Illegal, unstable, possibly suicidal. Jackson grinned. Perfect. They turned a sharp corner and almost ran into a full security squad. 7 armored figures raised their weapons. Freeze! But Jackson didn't freeze. He moved like lightning. 1 second he was still. The next boom. He slammed both fists into the metal floor. A shockwave exploded outward, tossing the soldiers like paper. Alarms sparked. Lights flickered. Gianna stared. You shouldn't be able to do that yet. Jackson looked at his hands. Me neither. Dock C9 was old, almost forgotten, hidden beneath layers of construction. The doors were jammed shut, rusted. Gianna pressed her hand to the lock. Come on, come on. Jackson stepped forward. Let me try. He grabbed the handles and ripped the doors open with raw strength. Gianna blinked. Okay, that works too. Inside sat a small, beat-up scout ship, gray, cracked, and leaking steam. Jackson raised an eyebrow. That's our ride? She slapped a panel. Don't insult her. She's gotten me out of worse. They rushed inside. Gianna jumped into the pilot's seat. Jackson strapped in behind her as the ship roared to life. Outside the dock, syndicate troops swarmed in. Go! Jackson shouted. Gianna slammed the controls. The ship jolted forward, engines spitting fire. The dock doors hadn't fully opened yet. Jackson braced. We're gonna crash the ship. Punched through the half-open gate, scraping metal and trailing sparks as it blasted into the void. The station vanished behind them, but the danger didn't. 3 syndicate fighters were already on their tail, sleek, black, and deadly. They're gaining, Jackson said. Gianna's hands flew across controls. There's a wormhole gate 400 clicks from here. But it's unstable, unregistered. Do it anyway. She tapped coordinates into the nav system. Once we enter, there's no coming back. Jackson looked out at the stars. I don't want to go back. Behind them, the enemy ships fired. Lasers shot past their hull, rocking the scout ship. Shields at 30%. The system warned. Gianna cursed. One more hit and we're fried. Jackson stood up, moving to the engine core. Maybe not. What are you doing? She yelled. Jackson placed both hands on the energy matrix. It hummed, then roared. Gina looked at the readings. You're charging the drive with your body? That's insane. Then it fits the theme of the day. Energy surged from Jackson's hands into the engine coils. The ship shuddered but accelerated. Ahead, the wormhole spun into view, a glowing, swirling hole in space, unstable, jagged, twisting like it was alive. Gianna shouted, "We hit it in 10 seconds." Jackson stumbled back to his seat. "I'm ready." The ship roared toward the chaos. Behind them, one of the Syndicate fighters pushed forward, weapons locking on. "Not today," Jackson muttered. He slammed the emergency pulse switch. The ship jolted forward straight into the wormhole. Silence. Everything twisted. Colors bent. Time stretched. Zhee. Single quotes, not gritted her teeth. Her eyes flickered. Hold. Jackson floated for a second, weightless before gravity. Slammed back down. Then dash boom. They shot out the other side. A new star system blinked into view. Empty, cold, unknown. They were alone. Gianna checked the radar. No followers. Jackson collapsed back in his seat. "We made it?" She nodded. "We're alive." He looked around. "Where are we?" Gianna smirked. "I have no idea." They both laughed just a little. Then Jackson grew quiet. "They're not going to stop, are they?" "No," she said. "You're awake now. They'll hunt you across galaxies. You're more than just valuable. You're dangerous." He stood, staring out the viewport. "Well then," he said softly, "let's make it worth the chase." Asterisk. The ship floated in silent orbit above an unknown blue and silver planet. It was quiet now. No alarms, no explosions. No Syndicate chasing them. For the moment, inside the ship, Jackson sat on the metal floor, back against the wall, hands wrapped around a warm can of recycled coffee. He hadn't said a word in 10 minutes. Gianna stood across from him, watching. His eyes were distant. Like his mind was somewhere far away, maybe back at Station Echo 9, maybe back on Earth, or maybe just lost. "I'm not built for this," he finally said, breaking the silence. Gianna tilted her head. "For what?" He looked up. "Being something I don't understand. People chasing me for my blood. This repeater thing." She sat across from him. "I didn't ask to be born into a collapsing empire. But here I am. We don't get to pick the war we're thrown into," he smirked. "That's a very Waitress thing to say," she smiled faintly. "I wasn't always a waitress." Gianna stood up and walked to the cockpit. The starlight painted her silver skin in pale glow. Her reflection shimmered in the viewport glass. "I used to work for them," she said. Jackson blinked. "The Syndicate?" She nodded. "I was young, smart. They gave me a position in genetics, research and testing. I helped develop their early cloning batches. I thought we were saving our species. I didn't realize we were erasing others." Jackson stood up slowly. "What changed?" Gianna's voice softened. "I saw what they did to a living repeater they captured. He begged, he screamed. And they tore him apart like a machine, piece by piece." Her hands clenched at her sides. "That's when I ran. I changed my name, took a small job in a small cafe at the edge of space, hiding until you walked in." Silence fell again. Jackson walked over, stood beside her, both staring out at the stars. "You could turn me in," he said. "I know. You'd be rich. I'd be a traitor, again." He looked at her. "So what are you choosing?" She didn't answer at first. Then she said, "I'm choosing you." Jackson's brows raised. "Me?" Gianna turned serious. "You're more than just DNA. You're the last spark of something real. Not a weapon. Not a resource. Just human. That used to mean something." He looked down. "And what about you?" She smiled, small and sad. "I'm a waitress with blood on her hands and a bounty on her head. Not much left for me. Jackson gently touched her arm. "Then stay with me." A beep interrupted them. The ship's radar lit up. "ZHEE single quotes, now rush to the console." "Incoming signal, not syndicate. It's encrypted." Jackson frowned. "You know the code?" She nodded slowly. "It's old Earth military, buried deep in the repeater archives." She tapped a command. The screen blinked. A hologram appeared. An old man in a Terran jacket, gray beard, one eye missing. Voice rough. "If you're receiving this, then it means one of us made it." Jackson leaned in. The old man continued. "Name's Commander Harlan Brigg, last surviving leader of the Repeater Initiative. We left behind an outpost hidden inside a dead moon. Coordinates are attached." The screen glitched, then returned. Gianna whispered, "He's real." "Your people, they left a backup." Jackson nodded. "Then we're not done yet." But outside, something watched them from orbit. A cloaked ship, black, silent, listened to every signal, every heartbeat. Inside, Korak sat in the captain's chair, a long scar across his face from Jackson's last punch. He growled, "Prepare the breach team." His red eyes burned. "End this." The dead moon wasn't just dead, it was forgotten. A gray, broken rock floating in space, with no lights, no signals, no signs of life. Just craters and shadows. Perfect for hiding something the universe wasn't supposed to remember. Jackson and Gianna stood at the edge of a massive impact basin. The ship had landed half buried in dust. They both wore breathing masks. Gianna carried a scanner. Jackson carried nothing but instinct and a growing fire in his chest. The scanner blinked. "There's a structure beneath us," she said, "deep, hidden under the crust." Jackson cracked his knuckles. "Then let's wake it up." They climbed down a forgotten shaft, rusted and half-collapsed. Every step echoed with the ghost of a war long past. At the bottom, a door. Old Earth tech. Still locked. Jackson touched it, and the door opened on its own. A warm light flickered inside. The hallway beyond was clean, preserved. A voice played from a nearby speaker. "Repeater base Echo Prime. Status inactive. Awaiting command input." Gianna looked at Jackson. "It recognized you." He stepped forward. "Maybe it always would." The base wasn't empty. Inside were cryopods, sealed rooms, and glowing data cores. A massive holographic table stood. In the middle. Jackson placed his hand on the control panel. Suddenly, the lights flared. Dozens of screens blinked to life. And then, "Welcome, Lieutenant Grant." He froze. "Lieutenant?" "I was never," Gianna whispered. "Maybe not in this life." One pod hissed open. Inside lay a metallic suit, sleek, armored, clearly human-made, but far more advanced than anything still in use. Jackson stared at it. "Is this what they wore?" Gianna scanned it. "No. This is what you're supposed to wear." Jackson ran his fingers over the suit. It was warm to the touch, like it was alive. The suit pulsed with golden light when he stepped closer. He paused. Then nodded. "Let's finish this." Far above them, in orbit, Korak's ship uncloaked. Enforcer pods launched from its underbelly, raining down like spears of fire toward the moon's surface. Inside one of them, Korak checked his blade. "No more games," he growled. "I'm taking his heart back in a box." Back in the base, Jackson stepped out of the pod fully armored. The suit didn't slow him, it moved with him. His eyes glowed beneath the visor. The golden light around him was steady now, no longer surging out of control. Gina stood beside him. "They're coming." "I know, you could still run." He looked at her. "You could still betray me." She raised an eyebrow. "I chose you, remember?" Jackson smiled. "Then let's show them what happens when you corner a human." The first Enforcer squad hit the ground, hard, weapons drawn, scanning fast. They didn't even see Jackson coming. He dropped from above like a meteor, slammed into the center of the squad, and unleashed a shockwave of golden force that knocked them all flying before they could recover. He was already on the move, faster than human, stronger than memory. One by one, they fell. Gianna fought, two blaster in hand, covering his blind spots, outsmarting their tactics. She wasn't just some waitress anymore. She was his shield, his backup, his choice. Together they pushed forward as wave after wave came down. But then, Korak landed. Alone. His armor burned red. His blade hummed like it was alive. "You've grown," he said, stepping through the smoke. Jackson stood between him and Gianna. "And you haven't changed at all," Korak snarled. "You're not a repeater. You're a mistake. A flicker. I am the storm." Jackson raised his glowing fists. "Then let's see what happens when a storm meets a spark." The two collided like titans. Energy flashed. Blades clashed. The moon's surface cracked beneath their fight. Jackson took hits, but healed instantly. Korak moved with brutal force, but Jackson was faster now, smarter, burning with more than just strength. He was fighting for more than survival. He was fighting for a future. In a final blow, Jackson let go of the control. He let the power flow. His suit flared with golden fire, and he slammed both fists into the ground. A massive blast erupted, a dome of light that vaporized Korak's armor and sent him flying into a crater. Jackson staggered forward. Korak, beaten and smoking, tried to rise. Jackson grabbed him by the chest plate. "You want my blood?" he said. He leaned close. "Too bad it's mine." And with that, he threw him into the void. Gone. Silence returned. Gianna walked up beside him, blood on her cheek, breath heavy. Jackson looked up at the stars. "I don't know what I've become," he said. She smiled. "You became the spark." He turned to her. "So what now?" Gianna looked at the suit, the stars, the future. "Now," she said, "we light the galaxy."